Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Christian Yang. Welcome to the Expectations Podcast, episode 7. It's been a long while since we had an episode, but I have a great artist here in Trace who I just stumbled upon last month because I was looking through a bunch of Asian artists because of Asian Heritage Month. I stumbled upon Trace and I just loved some of her songs and I had to get her on. So we had to make this happen, and I'm grateful that she's here.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
For sure. So yeah, I mean, your music is amazing. We'll definitely drop it down below, but you just released a new song. How is that going? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I haven't released a song since I released my sophomore EP last October, and I was signed and I finished my deal. And so this was my first song independently dropped, and I felt like it was timely because it's called Hard Times, and
Yeah.
we're in very hard times, and
Yeah.
I didn't mean to call that out so soon.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt timely, and I just really missed the music community. I took an 6 month break to
Okay.
kind of just not do anything, and so yeah, I wrote this song with some guys, and it was just about, it initially started to be about kind of just being so tired of playing the game
Mm-hmm.
and running into people that don't really care about getting to know you. And I'm tired, and I don't go out, and I don't. So anyways, it was just about a look into relationships and people, and how it mirrors how we feel about ourselves sometimes. And yeah, it was a call of loneliness, but wanting to be more alone, which is kind of weird, but
That's dope.
yeah.
I like it a lot.
Thank you.
I've been listening to it pretty much all day today, at least, for sure. But it's a great song. I love the rest of your music as well. So
Thank you.
that's awesome. How are you holding up with, I guess, with everything going on? I mean, how are you holding up? Obviously quarantine and protests, and obviously balancing music at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you holding up?
Yeah, I think we all are going through the stages of grief. I think in the beginning it was not it wasn't like a sexy time, but everyone's like, yeah, we're at home, and we're learning how to bake bread, and and that was cute. But now it's oh, this is actually really serious. And I think
Mm-hmm.
quarantine merged with obviously all the protests and stuff. I think it just took 2 pandemics for us to wake up as a
Yeah,
nation.
for
And
sure.
personally, I'm so grateful that as a musician, you kind of don't go to an office for work. So
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of diligent in continuing to create music. And during this whole time, I've been talking to my other friends who are artists, and each day was different. I would ask them, did you write anything today? Did you feel creative today? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm hitting this place now, 3 months in, I'm feeling really like I can't create. So I'm really glad I released the song early on, and
Yeah,
I'm okay. I think I'm excited for the world and for us to move forward, and I'm really hopeful, but I'm super heavy with how things are turning out right now. But
for sure. I can
yeah.
see that. I kind of feel the same way. I'm not an artist or anything like that, but as far as creating content and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of hard. Just because of everything going on, you just feel like it can kind of be a little bit of a downer, and you kind of get creative inspiration from going out and seeing people and
Mm-hmm.
from doing regular things and just being
Right.
stuck in all day. You're just like, I don't know, you just feel kind of lazy. So
Totally,
yeah,
totally, totally. So you need the energy of people.
for sure. I
So
agree with that 100%.
yeah.
So yeah, let's learn a little bit more about you. So tell us a little bit about your childhood. Give us the chapter 1 in your book of you growing up and how you got into music, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I've been really looking into my childhood recently, and I mean, I won't go on tangents. I'll try not to, but looking at how we were raised, even especially as Asian Americans, it's very interesting to really look at what we were taught,
Mhm.
and I'm assuming you were born here. Maybe you weren't.
Yep,
Were you?
for sure.
Yep.
Yep.
And so yeah, just kind of following the American dream. So I think for me, so my mom is a Vietnamese singer, and she's the coolest. And she
Yeah.
came during the war, and So I was raised by my mom, and my dad left when I was young, and my mom raised me with my aunt. And so I lived in Southern California, in Huntington Beach, which I have seen on the internet that people compare Huntington Beach to like Florida, which
Uh-huh.
is so rude. Not that I'm hating on Florida, but people just like make fun of Huntington Beach a lot, and it's
Mm.
become a very interesting city now. But growing up, it was really nice living by the beach. And I grew up pretty like, I guess like middle class, but around really only white
Yeah.
people.
Yep.
And I loved it. Of
Yeah.
course, I wanted to be white, to be honest. And I was kind of just like, had to, assimilate. And I had a pretty good childhood. I enjoyed life for the most part. And then I moved to Anaheim when my mom remarried. And then that was cool. I went to high school in Anaheim, and then I've never really had interest in music. I I wanted to be a private investigator. I wanted to be like a detective. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why, but I like, yeah. So I basically did not have any inkling of music, even though I
Hmm.
grew up around it and around my mom and seeing her like perform and sing and stuff. I was like, that's cool. I think for me, what kind of drew me initially in my life was writing. And so kind of like transitioning to my childhood, into like how I kind of started music was when I went to college, and I just started picking up the guitar. And I picked up the guitar a little bit earlier, but I'm not very good at it. And I just started writing songs to myself.
What age was this?
Like maybe like 18, 19.
Okay.
Yeah. And I I'm that's what I can say confidently. Like I can't even tell you like I'm a good singer. I'm like, I'm okay. Like
Hmm.
I'm a writer. I love writing. And so I wanted to start writing songs, and I just was practicing guitar, writing songs in college, and never sang out loud to anybody, like
Hmm.
only to my like bedroom wall.
Yeah.
And, just kind of like it was an expression, and it really helped me, kind of work through things. And kind of fast forward, I was dating someone for like 5 seconds, and 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 he heard my songs somehow. I don't remember. I literally don't remember how this all happened. And then after college, fast forward, this is like the worst like journey, but like like stay with me. After college, I moved to Los Angeles because I got a job at a magazine.
Okay.
And so that's why I moved to LA 7 years ago, and I worked at a magazine as an editor. And music was not a thing at all.
Hmm.
And basically, this guy reached out to me because we were friends still, and he was like, "Hey, I want you to sing on my album." And I was like, "That's hilarious." It's like it felt shocking to me.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of
Yeah.
like someone asking you to do something you've never done before, and
Yep.
you're like, "Okay." And I love doing things I don't know how to do
Hmm.
because I'm not. It's like less pressure for
Yeah.
me. I think
Yep.
it's kind of like, here we go. So I did, and I had so much fun. The first time I sang into a microphone was 2013,
Hmm.
and that was a ball. And I just sang and left. I didn't know what mixing was. I didn't know anything. I just sang the song twice, and basically I heard the song like a year later, and I didn't really love it. It was very, it didn't sound like me, and it
Hmm.
wasn't anyone's fault. I just don't think I knew what I sounded like, and I didn't know
Yeah.
how to sing and whatever. And so I'm working full time at in LA, and my friend was like, you should do your own music." And I was like, "No, like that's," because I didn't like this. I didn't like how the song came out, and
Hmm.
so she's like, "Just do it yourself." So I did. I had songs that I wrote in college,
Hmm.
and I connected with an old college friend, and he moved to LA for truly the duration of producing my EP, and then moved back to San Diego, which was like
Hmm.
so destiny. And he was like, "I'm down to mix and produce your songs," because I had acoustic songs that I didn't want acoustic.
Hmm.
I wanted it to sound like Sylvan Esso. So that was like 2015,
Hmm.
and electronic sounds were like new,
Yeah.
and that's how I started. I did a Kickstarter, and I think that's maybe a question you have, but
Yep.
that's how I kind of got my EP made and paid for.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's backtrack a little bit.
Yes.
So like you jumped into music around 2013, you said. I guess like what was your parents kind of
Mm.
view on that? Obviously your mom, you said your mom was a singer, so
Yeah.
I don't know what her view might be.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I think that I was really relieved to actually tell my mom that I was doing music because
Mm,
she understands that. I think my whole career and I have a degree in business, and she never really got what I was doing. You know,
yeah.
she would call me a journalist, and
Hmm.
I was like, no, I'm like an editor. Like I run a magazine. I help run a magazine, and so it was really hard to explain to her what I do. And so I think first off, it was really cool to be like, yeah, mom, I'm doing music. She was very, I think I'm going to re-ask her again because I think she was surprised, but I think in my soul, I know that she wasn't,
Hmm.
because growing up, you know, in the small Vietnamese community in Orange County, a lot of people would always ask my mom in front of me, is she going to sing like
Hmm.
you? Is she going to sing like you? And I will say there probably was that subconscious pressure, you
Hmm.
know, in growing up as a kid, you never want to do what your parents like
Yeah.
want you to do or
Yeah.
have done. It's like,
Yep.
so I think I grew up being like, I would never be a singer, which is the funniest jokes on me thing. Like, I'm just
Hmm.
like, cool, cool, cool. So yeah, I think she was excited. I think she was really worried about, you know, she'll always worry about my life. And so I think
Yeah.
she was kind of like, it's really hard, just so you know.
Hmm.
And so I think for me, it was really cool to kind of learn from her. And in the same ways though, she's learned it from me a lot because
Yeah.
the American industry is
Hmm.
way different than the Vietnamese
Yeah.
music
Is she
industry.
still singing like from time to time or what?
She's still singing. She
Yeah.
is
That's
not.
dope.
She's 73, you guys, and
Okay.
she's not gonna stop
Yeah.
singing. So
That's so dope.
yeah,
Well, cool. So talk a little bit more about your Kickstarter. Like, how did that idea happen? I mean,
yeah.
this was around what, like 2015, you said?
2015, yeah,
Okay, cool. Yeah.
two thousand 15.
How did that
Yeah,
go down?
you know, I think I was in LA for about almost 2 years, and I had a really big community.
Yeah.
And you know, when you come to LA and you plug into whatever industry, if you're, you know, lucky and fortunate enough to have like good friends and people who are for you, that was the case for me.
Hmm.
I would be nowhere without all of these people, all the people in my life. And so when I decided to do a Kickstarter, you know, it was like my boss was like, you should sing in my backyard, we'll have it in my
Mm,
backyard, let's
yep.
invite our friends.
That's dope.
And I'm pretty like shameless in like selling myself, in the sense of like, I just invited everybody I knew, and I had people invite people they knew. And I was like, hey, I'm just singing. I don't really
Hmm.
know what I'm doing, but this is going to be fun. And there'll be wine, if anything. So if you want to come, like come through. And so people came through, and I sang an acoustic set of my first EP, and people were like really responsive. And it feels like a blur because I feel like I don't even know what I was doing. I just don't even know. I hadn't take any like voice lessons. I didn't know how to move my body. I don't even know what I was doing. I don't even want to see those like videos, but I basically just corralled my community in LA,
Hmm.
and some people from Orange County came. And then I did a Kickstarter, and I asked for only I should have asked for more, but I asked for like 6 or 7 grand, and I made it, and I got my EP done, and I recorded my whole first EP in my bathroom.
Really?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah,
I mean, I guess a lot of singers have said like, bathrooms got like the best like uh
acoustics.
yeah, acoustics, yeah.
Yeah,
That's dope. I
yeah,
think what's also cool is that your boss was just really supportive about, you jumping into music and stuff like that. A lot of
absolutely,
bosses wouldn't, so I think that's super cool.
absolutely.
Yeah. Um, so you do your EP, and then what happens next? You kickstart the EP, then what happens next?
I will say that like my career started off really strong.
Yeah.
I'm still a little bit. I think the music industry right now is kind of insane, and it's hard to feel like anyone hears your music in a
Hmm.
dense world. So
Hmm.
so what happens next is like a really freaking fun time. Like
Yeah.
it was it was the favorite part of my career, in the sense of like it was a signal that I'm doing the right thing. And I think that's where I kind of think about, I want to be good, you know, and I don't
Mhm.
care if I'm not good, someone tell me. And I
Yeah.
literally was like asking my friends, like my closest friends in the beginning, like, hey guys, if this sucks, totally tell me. I'll go back to the magazine. It's cool. I don't
Yeah.
care. But basically, I got my EP produced, and I had a good friend. It really started off with Hilly Dilly, the blog, the music blog that is pretty big. It was like one of the biggest music blogs in the beginning. My friend
Mm-hmm.
knew an editor, and he put up Heavy Shoulders, and which was my first single ever released, and that caught a lot of attention, and it got some plays, and people started putting on playlists on Spotify, and then I was like, cool. I'm trying to remember what my second single, um, I want to say was Honey, and I want to say I released it on my own. I released everything on my own until so Spotify, they called me, and they were like, we want to talk to you, and I
Yeah.
was like, what?
That's
And
crazy.
it's so cool. It was so fun.
Yeah.
And they're like, it was before all of the artist database wasn't relevant
Mm-hmm.
yet. Like, it was like, we're doing this new database thing, and we had a meeting at Soho House, which feels cool. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is glamorous. And I had a manager, a friend who was a manager, and we talked to my now good friend Vanya, who used to work for Spotify, and she was like, your songs are on all these playlists. How are you getting traction? Like, you're not signed. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I just, And so basically she was like, how can we help you?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like, well, I have an EP coming out.
Yeah.
And so that happened. And then my manager was good friends with this guy, Braden, who works at Next Wave. Next Wave is a sub-label of Ultra, which is under Sony. Next Wave signed my single Low, and that's my most popular song still to date.
Yeah.
They signed that single. I never heard of a single being signed before, but they signed my single. Spotify put me on the cover of their Ultimate Indie playlist, which was cool. And that's what happened. And my songs were everywhere. And yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah. That sounds like a crazy time. That all happened within like
Six
maybe a
months.
year or two, 6 months.
Yeah.
Sheesh. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You must have been busy for sure with
It
all
was
that
it
going
was so fun. It was
on.
so
Yeah.
fun, and it helped me quit my job
Yeah.
because I was working at the magazine for like
Yep.
maybe 6 more months, and I
So
stopped.
cool.
Yeah.
So what was that like? Obviously, you received a record deal. How did that feel like? It was just for a single, or was it as a whole?
I got a record deal after that.
Gotcha.
So what happened was I signed just a single, and then I kept my EP, and then I went on tour, and I opened up for a good friend now, Mr. Little Jeans, who I've been a fan of for a long time,
Hmm.
and which was like so cool. Which I got that tour because I emailed her SoundCloud.
Wow.
Her manager didn't
Yeah.
see it until
Uh-huh.
2 years later, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like overly confident, being like, hey, I love your sound, like, let's connect. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, I went on tour during the fall of, I don't remember which year, I think 2016. And the record label Ultra saw how good my song was doing with
Yep.
Low, and so they offered me a record deal while I was on tour,
Uh-huh.
and I said no,
Hmm.
because it was too soon, and I was like,
Yep.
why would I sign? That's
Yep.
okay. And so I went on tour, I finished, and they kept asking me, and it wasn't until the following year. So they were asking me during November. So December, January, February, March, April, South by Southwest happened.
Yep.
They asked me to play their stage,
Hmm.
and I was like, okay. Like, they basically was like, we know you haven't said anything yet, but we want to like pay for you to come out here exclusively for our stage.
Hmm.
And so I was like, let's do it. I love being courted and pursued.
For sure.
Had a great time at South by, and
Hmm.
then in the summer is when I signed with them, because they were persistent,
Yep.
and they're a dance label. If you guys aren't familiar with Ultra, but they're the number one dance label, which is funny because I'm not a dance artist.
Yeah.
But they were looking to kind of open up their genres, and I felt really honored that they took a risk on me,
Yep.
and I took a risk with them too, because
Yep.
so then that all happened, and it felt, signing to a record deal 2 years ago felt empowering, exciting, and encouraging, because I think for me, my stance has changed a little bit now that I'm back to independent, but I think it's important for any artists out there to kind of really think about what do they want
Yeah.
out of their career, right?
Mm-hmm.
So initially for me, I just was like, I want to play Coachella like at a nice stage, and I want to win Grammys.
Yep.
And I really believe I can do those things, but it doesn't really work without a label.
Yeah.
And when I signed and everything, I haven't won a Grammy yet, nor played Coachella. And so it kind of just makes you think about, the state of the business that everything is in now. Anyways, I signed. It was really exciting. I learned a lot, and I'm super glad I did that, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
super glad that I'm not signed anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think just going through these things like signing a label and then going back to independent, like you just learn a lot. There's like a lot of lessons through that. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's just what your journey is, and that just leads up to where you're gonna end up at, So
Exactly.
that's dope. Talk a little bit about your partnership with that nonprofit. I mean, you released a single
Mm-hmm.
about trying to put an emphasis on mental health,
Yeah.
the importance of it, and you worked at a nonprofit called National Alliance
Mm-hmm.
on mental health. Talk a little bit about that and what the thought process was there, and kind of just how that all happened.
Yeah. I really felt like I didn't want to talk about mental health.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, thankfully it's very trendy to talk about it. And I think that's a great thing. Whatever works, I think
Yep.
gets people's attention. So when I released Anxiety, I was really passionate to have more of a story behind it. I'm very like definitive when it comes to the songs I release, because I'm very like, let me tell you what this means.
Mm-hmm.
But with Anxiety, I just it was like my own like problems, like it was personal. So Anxiety was when I kind of started working with my new management, and I think we kind of had new fresh thoughts on that. And I really wanted to make my whole goal in general before the song came out, I've always said, is that I want to make sadness to be a healthy thing. And I think there's ways to be healthy in that. And so
For sure.
I think we did some research into like organizations, but we've heard great things about NAMI, and it was a really fun process with them. They hopped on phone calls with me, like their whole team, their whole
Wow.
branch in
Yeah.
California, and just kind of asked me like, what's mental health to you? And for me, music heals, and it heals me. And I've seen like firsthand, I think the majority of the responses like from my fans have been centered around mental health and mental illness. And I've always been so humbled by the reaction, because I never knew that's what my music evoked.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost thought I was fooling everyone. Like, there's no way no one's going to realize that I have like, I have had like suffered from depression and anxiety.
Mm.
So talking to this organization, it was just more of just partnering in just this mission of like music and what they do for like mental health and the resources they provide for people, and kind of just not wasting a release of a song too.
Yeah.
When you have a message, it felt really productive to do that, because it was also the first song that I felt like it was my first music video I co-directed with my friend, and I wrote the treatment. Like I had the vision, like I just kind of felt really passionate and scared about this song.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice to bring people alongside of me when I released it. And yeah, it was really cool partnering with them.
That's cool. I think as we're seeing now, like being uncomfortable just helps us grow and learn a lot more. So I think that's huge. Seems like you have a
Yes.
lot of friends in the music industry. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's dope. That's really cool.
Trying.
Yeah. Talk a little bit more about like how I mean, so with this song, there's obviously inspiration there. Talk about like inspiration with your other type of music, where you find inspiration from, and just where you find, what's your creative process?
Yeah. It's almost interesting because I'm trying to remember who I was before this pandemic. You know what I mean? I'm like, who
For
was
sure.
I?
For
Who were
sure.
we? Like,
For sure.
now anything is inspiring to me because I'm
Mm-hmm.
so desperate for like life, and
Yep.
but I will say that creating a story is, for me, like super detrimental that you feel connected to it. I think inspiration feels clear when you feel like rested, when you feel healthy, when you feel, like when you don't wake up looking at your phone. Like, I know that I create better when my mind's clear.
For sure.
I've learned through the songs that I've written that the stuff that I don't want to talk about, I write so much easier, And one of my songs off the last EP is called When I Was Young, and it was about my dad. This is a good example. Like, it's called When I Was Young, and I was in the studio. So when I go in the studio, my like routine is like, I have a ton of notes on my phone of words, ideas, feelings, whatever. And then I record some melodies sometimes in my phone. So like, if you're in a studio with producers, if you're working with producers, you kind of have like this like log of like, oh, let me hear this idea, and like, do you like this? Like, it depends, that's another conversation of dynamics in the room. But
Yep.
I usually I have like a backup, but I love creating like live and connecting with the producer and being like, where are you at? Where am I at? And then he or she will play a sound, and I'm very off the cuff because I write very fast, which is what I'm learning, and like a very humble flex. I don't know if that's like a flex, but I just write fast.
That's cool. That's just your process.
Yeah, I just like I write fast, and I have to write to the melody. A lot of artists, which I envy, like can hum to like melodies, and I have to put like words to it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's kind of, and I think those words come when I feel connected to myself, and when you're grasping for like content, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter what industry you're in. It's like, I know when you're trying.
Yeah.
And so with this song, When I Was Young, I did not write anything for like 25 minutes, a half an hour, and that's a long time. And I was like, can you hear me?
Sorry, I can. Yep. You're good.
Cool. So I wasn't writing for 30 minutes, and I was like, what is wrong with me? I took a walk around the block, and I came back, and I was like really bothered by something about my dad. And then I wrote the song, and I wrote it in, no joke, like 4 minutes. So
really?
Yeah. So it just pours out of you because you're just like, you're, for like a lack of better words, but like, you're like grieving, you're like crying, you're releasing something that you don't want on you anymore. And so I think my process is to always write things down in your phone, in your notebook, whatever. I'm not like a notebook gal. I wish I was like an artist that like stopped in the middle of like a walk and like wrote on my notepad.
Yeah.
But I just write notes in my phone. I hum things in my phone, but I'm also just trying to like really be connected to my body and just really feel everything and just release it, and don't overthink it. I think especially when I was signed, you think a lot about, okay, how do we make a pop song? How do we make a hit? How do we make a hit? You will not make a hit if you're asking, how do I make a hit?
Facts. That's 100%.
So
yeah, that's dope. I love that. I think it's more about just in, I think, anything, like you were saying, like it's more about consistency and just staying original and true to yourself. I think that's huge, a huge play into just creating, something something in general, like music or a podcast episode or just anything in general. Like if you stay true and original to yourself, then that will stick out because that's
Absolutely.
you. That's true to yourself,
Absolutely.
So that's dope. Talk a little bit more about like what you're interested in. So like, what type of artists do you listen to? What type of music do you like? Who are some of your inspirations?
Yeah, that's always so hard for me to
Yeah.
answer, especially now. Like, I think that my like soul is like sad folk music, like Joni Mitchell, Bob Dylan, like that olden day, like, but then I love like Peggy Lee and like Hank Williams, like really sad folky music. That kind of really helped me kind of be more into music in the beginning of my career. And then that kind of translates into like the modern day. And for me, it's always been like, I will go old, like quote unquote old school for a second, but I love Feist. I love Cat Power. I love The National. Like, again, sad people
Yeah.
writing about sad songs. You just
Yeah.
feel stuff and you're like, this is amazing.
Hmm.
So I'm definitely a lyrics person. Like, I love listening to the writing.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of sounds, I mean, I've I've admired Frank Ocean, you know, for a long
Love
time.
him.
I love
Yeah.
everything about what he does, and I just love he's an actual artist. Like, he
Yeah.
is just like an artist, you know. And so a big fan of his. And you know, I think, and there's pop people that I love too. Like, I think off the top, like I really loved, you know, Royals. Like, I really loved Lord's like first album, like Pure Heroine. Like, that really changed a lot for, I think, female vocalists.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like Lord, you know, today's would be like Billie Eilish, you know, like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there have been these women who have really set like the tone for, like, I think, pop music. But Lord really was like so phenomenal, like what she has done, and I think will be doing.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of. But yeah, I also like love classical music. I love like funky Afrobeat music. You
Yeah.
know, I truly would say I love hip hop. I love all music.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to see what has inspired me versus entertained me.
Yeah.
And so maybe I'm still learning the difference between that. And so I think in terms of my own sound and when I want to create music, it's like I always want people to be able to, I want you to be to like dance to it, but like cry to it. You know, it's like I want you to feel something in your body when you listen to my music.
Yeah.
And so that's always been a thing.
I think I get that kind of vibe from your music. Like,
That's good.
you can kind of bump it, but you also, like, once you actually listen to like the lyrics and stuff, you're like, okay, she's
Yeah.
really saying something. So
Yeah.
it's dope. I
That's
think
awesome.
going back to like you talking about different female artists kind of like changing up the game, I think that goes back to our point where just being original to yourself is really the thing that's gonna help you stick out, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's dope that you made that point. Um, what I guess like what's the best thing about being an artist, and like what's the worst thing? If you had to choose, I'm sure there's a lot you could say, but
Yeah.
what are some? What are some?
Good question. Um, I'll start with the bad stuff first, or the worst thing.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure if it's the worst thing, but I think that being an artist in general, man, you have to check yourself like every day. Like, you really have to. I think the worst thing is that you're pretty susceptible, I think, for me anyways, to the ego.
Mm,
um I want a lot of things. Like, I'm specific. I'm very like, my personality is like, I want everything. Like, I
yeah.
want it all. I want to be invited to the Met Gala. I want to win Grammys. I want to perform. I want to do a lot, because I'm learning, though, more and more it's because I just want, like, I want people to feel less alone, you know, and I
Mm-hmm.
want exposure and whatever. But I think the worst thing about being in the music industry is that it can really eat you up. And if you don't know who you are, and I know myself for the most part, but man,
Yeah.
I have bad days. And so I think the worst part about it is that if you don't know who you are, you can get swallowed up and literally forget who you are,
Mm,
and literally forget why you're doing what you're doing, and that you get to be doing what you're doing. You know, I think pressure and competition is really rampant in this industry, especially among women. and
mm-hmm.
I and I love having my women friends who are in music, and we're very like, we are in our own lanes, and we're so supportive, and I'm impressed by all of them, and I'm sure maybe vice versa, you know. But like,
Yeah.
I feel like we're changing the tone. I feel like there is something more collaborative these days with women, which is exciting. So the worst is the ego. I think
Gotcha.
I just think that's, I'm sure you can have an ego in any industry, but music is just like, I've been called out by people I trust, and I've called myself out, and I've hated how have felt with
Mm,
that. But then that kind of leads into the best part, and the best part is, man, I can't believe I get to do this. Like, I can't believe I get to speak to people, and people can take my songs and run with it. I don't care. Like, take it, hold it, shape it, form it, and if it brings any solace or any healing, man, that's the coolest thing ever, you know.
Yeah.
And I oops, that was my phone, sorry.
Ooh.
I've 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 done only one small tour, and I haven't done a world tour. I haven't played really. I've the biggest stage I've played is maybe like 500, but it wasn't like, you know, full, like like, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel new, even though I've been doing this for 5 years. I do feel
Hmm.
pretty new. And so, but all that to say is that the fans that I've met, that's the best part. The best part is hearing people tell me their stories, that
Hmm.
they have courage to move on from a relationship. They have courage to like want to live. They have courage to not feel like ashamed of who they are. Like things that I'm not even like, you know, I've just heard stories of people saying things about their orientation and their race, and I'm just like crying because they felt something listening to the music I've made. So
Yeah.
the best part is being a part of a community that makes people feel seen and loved. Like, oh, I can cry all day. Nothing else matters. Like none of the streams matter. Nothing matters as those people hear you.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I mean, just having that community is always going to be like a huge inspiration, but also something that's just going to keep you kind of like sane throughout the process as well at the same time. So,
Absolutely.
so I think that's awesome and huge.
Yeah.
So you obviously just released your single.
Mm-hmm.
What's next as far as like music wise for you?
Great, great question. Oh man, you know, sky's the limit. I
Yeah,
think. I think. I think in my soul, I'm working on other stuff that's outside of music that I
that's
will
awesome.
I'll probably share one day
Yep,
when I'm ready. But with music, I'm working on songs. I have a lot of songs. I have like meaning like I mean they're crap, but there's right now it's more like how do I efficiently release these songs. And I love a project driven thing, and I would love to release a full length album.
yeah,
So what does that look? I mean, yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of hope. I mean, what's next is that I would release a full length album,
okay,
and I would have support somehow, but I don't know by who.
yeah, yeah,
If it's a syncing licensing company, if it's another label, if it's management, if it's I think it's the Wild West right now with music. And so all I know is that I definitely want to be releasing more music. I in my soul would love to release a full length album sometime in the next like year and a half.
yeah. I think that'd be dope. To
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think just sharing your song just recently that's totally awesome. I think
Thank
us and your fans, we would love to see a new album coming out. So hopefully that
you.
happens. Uh, so we're getting to the end of the interview now. I guess if someone is trying to be or trying to get into the industry or trying to make the name for themselves in the industry, what advice would you give them to be able to kind of just maybe be the next Trace, maybe, or just break into the industry, I guess.
Yeah, I think that it is a true combination of luck, relationships,
Mm,
and really hard work.
yeah,
It's like the three, you know, it's like they all coincide together. I think that I've had the fortunate like experiences with a lot of artists who want to start, and I just want to say start. You know, I think it's I think it's you have to just write the songs. You have to not worry about but how am I going to get this done? But how am I going to get this done? Definitely start with the songs. It starts with the songs. So I would say write your songs, even if you're not a musician, like write your songs on a piano with two chords. That's what I do. Like I don't play very well. I wrote a whole EP on a guitar poorly. So
mm,
get your songs made,
yeah,
done. And then I think my second or like my other thought would be you have to get good at selling yourself. Like
yeah,
a lot of people are like, I'm not good at social media. Like I'm like, no one's good at it. Like, and no
yeah,
one wants to do this, but
yeah,
like, I really think it starts with knowing that like you do music for yourself, but like for people.
yeah,
And it's like you're doing it for people, and it's like there's a lot of pressure, but it's like for me, it's hard to speak for other people, because for me it feels like a God-given thing. Like I feel like I'm supposed to do this, and if I don't, I'm wasting this breath of mine, and I'm gonna get it out. So
Yeah.
for anyone wanting to break into the industry, it's more just like do the bare minimum of writing your songs, posting it up on SoundCloud, getting it on Spotify. You can do anything these days by yourself.
For sure. I agree.
And then you sell yourself. Then you figure out a social media plan. Then you meet people.
Yep.
Then you know what I mean? Like you just gotta do the first step before you dive into like, how do I get out there? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I agree with that. Cause I mean, you have to at least try first before you know if you even like it for a long run, you know?
100%.
So,
And I will add though too, and this sounds like a bias, but like probably move to LA. Cause I lived in Orange County and I lived in San Diego. I lived in California for
yeah.
like my whole life. And I have a lot of friends who live in San Diego who are amazing musicians, but it's not the same until you come to LA.
Yeah.
Because you meet one person and then you go get invited. I met my manager at a clothing event in
Wow.
in downtown LA.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
you have to place yourself in the industry, which is LA. So that's
Yeah.
another.
I think that's a huge point. I think throughout this whole interview is like you've talked about, you know, having friends and then they had a friend, and then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so networking is going to be huge for
Yes,
just anybody that's actually trying to do something. Just networking is huge.
absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Well, that's pretty much the interview. I thank you so much for being on, taking time out of your day to jump on this.
Thank
Uh,
you.
yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you, and I hope you stay safe and stay well during this time. And
Thank you. You
I
too.
hope to connect more in the future.
Thank you. And thank you for what you're doing for the community. I think that I was really honored to be asked to just speak on this platform. And I mean, I've never felt more proud to be Asian American, which is so weird to say. And I've
Yeah.
lived a while.
Yeah.
What you're doing is really beautiful. I'm
Thank you.
really glad to be on this and be a part of this. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Awesome. Well, great talking
Yay.
to you.
Yay.
Yep.